And our first guest is Brian Copeland, and he's with Black Odyssey Media. And he has a new book out that debuted last Tuesday. So we welcome him to the show as soon as we get him on camera. And hello, Brian. Do you have your sound? I don't see a little microphone. So do you have your audio?
He's connecting now.
It's connecting now.
Now he just has to unmute.
There we go.
All
Hello.
right, all right. You
Isn't
all
it always
fancy
the way?
with headphones on and everything to make sure.
As soon, I logged on 15 minutes in advance. And everything's perfect, everything's fine. Then 2 minutes before I'm supposed to come on, the internet cuts out. And everything
Oh, okay.
drops.
I saw that you logged on early, and then I said, "Well, he went away." So
Yeah. So hopefully it won't happen again. But of course, 2 minutes before, everything's fine, for 15 minutes. So hello, thanks for having me. Thanks for waiting for me.
Thank you for being here, and congratulations on your book release.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
With Black Odyssey, and of course, Black Odyssey Media. Aren't you with Black Odyssey Media?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I'll make sure I get it right. And Tice, she's a great leader in the industry and the space she's in, and she has a really, really good heart as well. And so we really appreciate her and all the work she's doing. And we usually will have the authors with Black Odyssey Media on within a week, sometimes on release day, but within a week or two of the release date, we normally will have them on the show so we can give them some early pub, because it's good to have early to go out of the gate with early book sales.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I was published a week ago today. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's always the release day is Tuesday, official release day. It's on Tuesdays. So, and it's also the day of our show. The day our show is on Tuesdays. It's not, that wasn't planned, but it really worked out.
Worked out very well. Thanks for having me.
So this is your debut crime novel.
Yes. I published the book before. It was a nonfiction book, but this is my first crime novel. Yes.
And it's called Outraged.
It's called Outraged. That's right.
Outraged about.
Well, what the book is about is it takes place in the San Francisco Bay Area. And my protagonist, chief protagonist, is Topher Davis, who is an African-American investigative reporter for a TV station in San Francisco, and his sister, Lynn Sloan, who is SFPD homicide. And somebody in the Bay Area is killing police officers and retired police officers who have shot unarmed people of color and not been held accountable for it. And so what they are trying to do is to find out who's behind it, Lynn, so that they can be arrested and justice can be served. And Topher, because his job is about to be cut because of budget cuts, and they're letting him do one more story. So he wants to go out with a big one. So that's what the plot is, and that's what the outrage is.
Well, okay. Now we hear about this happening in different places in the country. Is San Francisco, does it have challenges in that? Has it had its fair share of challenges with that?
Oh, absolutely. I live in San Leandro, California, which is right next door to Oakland, about 20 miles south of San Francisco. And I wrote this book during the shutdown. That's what I did to keep from pulling my hair out of my head, was I got up and I wrote this book every day. And while I was writing this book here in San Leandro, an unarmed Black man was shot dead in the parking lot of Walmart by police. He was having a mental health crisis, and he was unarmed. And it wasn't one of those situations where you needed law. It wasn't a situation where law enforcement was even necessary. I mean, they should have had some kind of mental health professional or somebody come out to deal with this guy, and instead he ends up getting shot dead. So it happens, everywhere. And of course, I'm next to Oakland, where we had Oscar Grant, and it happens. There's no place in the country that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so, especially cities large and small. You're right about
some
that.
of the instances that because you said that there was somebody going around killing unarmed Black men, so it sounds like there was more than one case. It was almost like a serial murder type thing. Did you?
It's somebody who's killing police who have killed unarmed black.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Okay.
it's the
Oh,
police.
okay. So it's
It
like
is
a
the
sub.
police who are
Okay.
being murdered. Police and retired police who have done it, who did it over the course
Okay.
of their
Wow.
careers,
Okay.
who are
Okay.
being murdered, and they're trying to find out who is killing these cops. Are they revenge killings? Who's behind it, and is the motive what the apparent motive appears to be? And that is that okay, nobody dealt with you, that justice wasn't served in these cases, so I'm going to do it, or is it something else?
It sounds like
Okay.
a type of story where some readers aren't going to know which way to lean. In
Mhm.
one way they want the perpetrator to be caught, but in another one they're like, well, these police officers are getting their just due because they killed an unarmed black man. So I feel the emotions kind of tugging either way in this story.
And well, there's a lot that's not what it appears to be on the surface, and that's one of the themes behind what happens with some of these shootings. They're not what they appear to be on the surface. The way that started this, the angle that I came at this from was, I wanted to explore what happens and what the effect is on the families of those who are shot, as well as the families of those police officers who were the shooters after the media frenzy dies down, after the protests have stopped. Okay, so what happens and what are their lives like? And that's where I came from. That was the jumping off point for how I started to write this novel.
Okay. Now you are a playwright as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, does your skills or experience as a playwright, did that come into play in terms of writing the novel? Because
I think so.
this is your debut novel. Is it your
I,
debut novel totally? I know it's not the debut book, but is this your first time writing fiction?
yeah, it's my first time writing fiction. It's the first fiction
Okay.
novel I ever wrote.
Okay.
First fiction book I ever wrote. And I just tell you about my background. I have been in show business since I was 18 years old. I started out as a stand-up comic here in the Bay Area, and I did stand-up for 20 years. I toured with as opening act for Smokey Robinson and Dionne Warwick and Aretha Franklin and Natalie Cole and Ray Charles. And I played clubs and concerts all across the country, as well as I have a broadcasting career that was going on simultaneously here in the Bay Area, where I hosted the morning show for the Fox affiliate in San Francisco for 5 years. I was on the ABC affiliate in the afternoon, and I had a talk show for 27 years on KGO Radio, which was the ABC affiliate when ABC had radio stations. And then I fell into doing one man stage plays. I wrote this play about growing up. I told you I live in San Leandro, California. And when my family moved here when I was a kid in the early 70s, it was 99.99% white and us. And so I wrote this book called Not This Play, I should say, called Not a Genuine Black Man. But because of the fact that had been accused of not really being black. I got an anonymous letter at the radio station by somebody saying I wasn't a genuine black man. So I decided I was going to write a story about what it was like to be different. You know, I spent my youth as the only black face in the room. So I wrote this play. It was a one-man play where I played all the parts. It's funny. It goes from funny to heavy, back and forth. It was supposed to run for 6 weeks. I had comedy bookings at the end of the 6 weeks, and it blew up. And it ended up becoming the longest running one-man play in the history of San Francisco theater. It went off Broadway, went to Los Angeles. Right now, director Rob Reiner, who did such classics as A Few Good Men and When Harry Met Sally, he is developing it right now for television. So I have subsequently done 4 other solo plays that I've written, including my most recent one, which is called Grandma and Me, an ode to single parents, and that won the Broadway World Award for Outstanding Solo Performance for last year. So it's kind of a roundabout way to just give you my background. So everything, all of it, really played a role in the writing of this book. I think that writing my solo plays and the stand-up has helped a lot because I am told, and what I was shooting for, of course, is for my dialogue to sound like people talk. You know, and then when you're writing a play, it's got to sound real. It can't sound stilted. And it's the same thing when you're doing stand up. So that played a real role in it. Topher is a broadcaster, and I was a broadcaster, so I understand how that world works and how the politics of that world works, and how what is covered, how it is decided, and who makes those decisions, be they right or wrong, all of that stuff. So I was able to pretty much use everything in my bag of tricks, in this story.
You know,
Well,
when
go
you
ahead, Rhonda, because I had the questions first.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, because you haven't asked them that much.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, as I'm listening to your story, you kind of remind me of the character in American fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Just that whole concept of blackness and what is black.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to write stories that happened to be black, and he had that pressure on writing black stories. And then he came against Issa Rae's character, who was writing what she felt was black stories. And I see a little bit of that struggle as I'm listening to your story.
Well, actually, what I wasn't really setting out to with Genuine. I wasn't really setting out to write a black story. I was just telling.
Right.
I wanted to tell my story. The
Exactly.
advice I got was to find the piece of ground that I alone stood on and write from there. And that was my piece of ground, being the square peg, being the one who was different. And I liked American fiction. I thought that it was funny, but there were parts of it that really upset me. In a perfect example of it is, just how uh, the main characters' books were uh, in bookstores, put in the African American section, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a book first. Like, for example, Not a Genuine Black Man ended up becoming a book after the play was such a hit that I was asked by a book lit agent to write a book. So I wrote a book, and it sold. It was a bidding war, and it sold in like 3 days to tell that story. And it was a memoir. And instead of when I would walk into the major bookstores, instead of being in the section with the autobiographies and the memoirs, it was in African American studies. So unless you came into the bookstore looking for African American studies, which they always put in the back someplace in the corner, you're not going to see it, as opposed to being, in like the first couple of rows when you walk in the store with all the newest autobiographies and all the newest memoirs and whatnot. And so that bothered me. It was the same. It's the same thing. I'm starting to see. I shouldn't say I'm starting to see. I checked out Amazon. And like Amazon will have the rankings on where a book stands, what number it is in various categories. The first category it has it in is African American mystery thriller, and then it has mystery thriller under that. Well, it is a mystery thriller that happens to deal with some black themes and has black characters and was written by an African American, but it's not necessarily a black story. I wanted to examine, a social issue that should concern us all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a decades old challenge. It hasn't gotten any better. I've been in the industry for going on 30 years in different capacities, as a retailer, as a marketer, as an author. So I hear what you're saying about the categorizations, and if it has black characters, the industry doesn't see it as universal.
As universal?
Right.
Yeah.
The industry doesn't see it. If it's got, especially the main character, if it has black main characters, the industry doesn't see it as universal. And I don't know if it ever will, because the gatekeepers keep being the same kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
When the person in the position hires their successor, or whoever they pick as their successor in the positions that make those decisions, they're not us. And so that's how we're viewed in the industry. And we just have to keep trying to reach other audiences on our own, because I don't see, the only time they do, sometimes things will break through on Good Morning America or something like that. They still are characterized as a black story, but
Okay, well, here's my question, and I keep
Okay.
meaning to look this up, and
Okay.
I haven't. And in fact, I'll do
Okay.
it as soon as I'm done. As soon as I'm done with you ladies, and that is, I'm curious as to what category they put James Patterson's Alex Cross in. James Patterson is a white novelist. Alex
Right.
Cross, his lead is an African American lead. Okay, so where do they? How do they characterize that book? I'm
Probably
really
not as a
curious.
black story. Probably not. I haven't looked it up lately,
Mhm.
but probably not as a black story because it's James Patterson.
Okay, so again, you've got black characters. So what's the
You
difference?
do
You know,
because
other than the fact that of the race of the author, you know. So I mean,
it's
I
true.
am dealing with issues, and this is a series. This is the first book in a series. The second book,
Okay.
this book, I'm looking at police shootings. There is I'm done with the second book, and the second book's called Shadows of Justice, and it'll come out next April. And what
Okay.
Shadows of Justice is about is the disparity in media coverage and police attention between the times when a white woman goes missing and when an African American woman goes missing.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that issue and able to look at it from inside the broadcast world because, as I said, I was in that world for so long. So I mean, I'd like I'm trying to write stories that deal with issues that are social issues that disproportionately affect people of color. Absolutely. But I'm still writing stories for, I hope, for everyone that everyone will enjoy
Yeah, I
and
hear you.
perhaps think
And
about
you
and
know
learn
that
something.
that is it. That coverage that you mentioned is very real, and not
Mhm.
just with white females, but I would say they're at the if you did a pyramid or a chart, whatever, they if they're missing, it gets the most attention of anybody.
Mhm. And
And then
there's a reason behind that where you talked about the gatekeepers and what the theory is, and I buy it.
okay.
Because my years in radio and television, I absolutely buy it. The decisions as to what happens to be covered on in the news are made by the news director, and
Hmm.
most news directors are middle-aged white men. So
Hmm.
when they see a Gabby Petito go missing or a Lacey Peterson or a woman like that, she
Hmm.
reminds them of their daughter. They've got a daughter her age. They've got a daughter who looks like her, and so then that's why that gets coverage. That's why they pull out all the stops because this is my daughter. When it's a black woman, they don't see it the same way. If it is a
Hmm.
Latina woman, they don't see her the same way. She doesn't remind them of their daughter, which is
Hmm.
why there needs to be more people in news. There needs to be more diversity in newsrooms across the country. Because again, they're the ones who make the decisions about
And
what's
Yeah.
covered.
if you read Taryn Hall's first book, she explored that subject in depth about the story was about an African American journalist who was trying to investigate a missing black girl, but then when there was a missing white girl, she was treated totally differently.
Uh-huh.
So it's a very good story if you haven't had a chance to read it, but she does explore that concept. And you're right. Unfortunately, when there is a white girl missing, America kind of rallies around that girl. We've got to find her.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, or holds its collective breath almost. I mean,
right,
you can
right.
almost feel it. And the women are at the top. And then after that is white children.
Uh-huh.
And then after that is everybody else. I mean,
Okay,
it's
but you,
it's but at the top of the pyramid, if somebody's missing, if it's a white female, it will get wall-to-wall coverage, no matter where they are in the United
uh-huh.
States. If
Uh-huh.
it's not geographical, you know,
Uh-huh.
it's the fact, it's gender and race specific.
Uh-huh.
And these are just facts, you know,
Yeah, they are. And you
it's
have to
just
remember, you
facts.
said that they rally around, it's like the country rallies around them. Well, why are they rallying around them? Because it's getting tons of media coverage.
Right.
Because the media is reporting every news cycle, every, bit of minutia that they can find. If they can't find something, then they'll, if there's nothing new or there's no new development, they'll talk to her fifth grade teacher.
Right. They talk to
Just
the
something
neighbors.
to keep it in the
Yeah.
so, but that's why there's a reason that that's why America rallies around.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it doesn't help the cause when, and this is just one instance, but when the young black woman said that she saw a toddler on the freeway, and
Yeah.
then she people thought she was missing, and that actually got coverage that they were looking for her, and it was a hoax. So it doesn't help matters when
No, it
I
doesn't.
don't know what she was thinking or dealing with, but it sounded strange to me when she said a toddler was walking on the freeway, because a toddler doesn't know the concept of traffic, and they
Mhm.
would have immediately just run out into traffic. They wouldn't have
Right.
known to be on the shoulder. A toddler doesn't have those kinds of mental skills yet. At 2 or 3
Mhm.
or 4, that's a toddler. They would not have stayed on the shoulder of the road. That just wouldn't have happened. So that,
No.
to me, as soon as I heard that, I said, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. But you try to give people the benefit of the doubt.
You try to, and
Mhm.
the other issue with that, and when there are hoaxes, is okay. So this is one woman of color who perpetrated a hoax. Okay, so they will use that as an excuse to dismiss any woman of color who comes forward.
Mhm.
Whereas if this was a white woman
Sure,
who had perpetrated a hoax, it's her. It's her as an individual. She did this. She's not representative of everyone who looks like her.
that's
Mhm.
true. That's true. And I like the fact that you brought to light that the news directors are middle-aged white men. Because people, the people who are making the decisions behind the camera, we think the people in front of the camera are deciding things. They are not. They are reading a teleprompter of words that somebody else wrote for them most of the time.
Well, you write
So
for yourself too. If you're an anchor, you're writing some of your own
you
stories
do,
too.
but you are also being fed words. That's all I'm
Mhm.
saying. You are being fed some of the words, and the people behind the scenes, like the producer, they make the decisions on the guests that come on the show. But you never see those people. You don't see the news director. You don't even
No,
know who it is. Now you know because you're in the industry, and so you've been in the rooms and in the stations. But the public doesn't necessarily even think about that at all.
no,
They just
no.
go with whatever they've seen on the news, and that's what they saw on the news.
So again, that's exactly why newsrooms need to be more diverse. You need to have more diversity in newsrooms, and you need to have more diversity of those who are making the decisions of what is covered and what's not. My daughter Carolyn is a journalist, and she works for a wonderful news organization. It's an online news organization called Prism, and it's a nonprofit. Have you heard of Prism? They're
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
nonprofit started by the Daily Coast, and now they're on their own. And
Okay.
she just got promoted to managing editor. And what it is that they do is they cover the news from the perspective of underrepresented groups, people of color, LGBTQ community, people who are incarcerated, all the people whose points of view are ignored or dismissed or misrepresented by what the mainstream media believes that people should know or want to know. And that's what it is they cover. And it could be the same issue that you just saw on ABC News, but it takes on a whole different meaning when you're looking at it through the eyes of someone who is not particularly a white male, which is who it is that they're aiming for, that they're
Mhm.
trying to make it palatable for.
Well, we have a couple of minutes left in the interview. Do you have a copy of your book with you?
Matter of fact, I do.
Wonderful. Let's see it.
Here it is.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Looks
Sorry about the
great.
glare. Sorry
No,
about
no, it
that.
looks perfect. It looks great. And is your second book with Black Odyssey as well?
It sure is. It's called
Okay.
Shadows of Justice, and again, it'll come out next year. And I'm working on a third Topher book. Actually, I'm in the researching stage of a third Topher book right now.
wow. So,
Okay, and we can talk a little bit more around it. So just
okay, I'm saying no grass growing under your feet. You're
Mhm.
already ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one of our viewers, Curtis Stevenson, he watches the show every week, and he said he will definitely be getting this book. I like what social topics it is dealing with. So, and
Thank you.
I like what you said about your book. And I'll be ordering my copy as well. When I write fiction, I write mysteries. So um and my two books that I have, they're a series, the book 1 and 2, but the main character is a journalist. So,
Ah,
you know, a journalist is a good character to bring current events to light,
mhm.
because that's what journalists do, is they cover current events. And so, and I don't have a journalism background, although I've been a writer for many years, but I like, I watch a lot of shows that have journalism at the base of them.
Mhm.
There used to be more on TV. I can't even remember the names of some of them now, but there used to be more series on TV that were news based. You know, now it's more police or fire or
Mhm.
medical.
Well, there was a
But
great one that ABC had that they just canceled that was called Alaska Daily,
oh
with
yes, yes,
Hillary Swank, and what that
yes,
dealt with was
yes,
the murders of indigenous women in Alaska,
yes,
and that was the whole season. It was great, and they made it through the season, but then they canceled it. And they gave it a
right.
second for the year.
I watched it on Hulu or one of the
That's what I
streaming.
saw was Hulu. Mhm.
Okay. And it was funny because when I watched it, I was finishing up my novel, the sequel. And the thing where they had the tote board where they ranked the different stories and how many clicks
Yeah.
each one got, I ended up using that in my book
Ah.
because I saw it on Alaska Deal. I said, this would be great. So there's nothing new under the sun, but I don't even know. I know that happens on websites. When you go like to a news website, they'll have the shows ranked. I mean, the stories ranked
Mhm.
by what's, based on clicks. Because now that's what it's about, because that's where the ad dollars come from.
Right.
Well, a
Right.
lot now. Well, we are at the end of our time, but Brian, thank you so much for being a guest
Thanks
on
for
Black
having me.
Authors Matter TV. Congratulations again on your book. And I do
Thank you.
plan to get a copy. It sounds exactly like the kind of reading I enjoy. So,
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me. I've enjoyed this very much, and I hope you like the book.
okay.
Maybe I'll see you next year when the new one comes out.
Yeah,
Hey,
we'll talk to Entice, she works it out. So we'll find out when the release dates are, and then we'll work that out so we can
All
get
right.
you back on.
Wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you.
Have a
that's-
great evening.
Take
You
care.
too. Bye-bye.